particular commemoration today of Ghana's Day of Shame? What's the significance?
I teach social welfare and social policy. So I came with about 50 students from Legon who are here and leaving. And what we've been looking at is public policy, the efforts that any government makes to try to help vulnerable people in their society be able to meet their needs. And Ghana under Nkrumah had the best model of government with community development, education, rural development, etc. on the African continent for almost 10 years before the overthrow. Ghana has slid backwards since that time. And that was something that I wanted my students to come and hear from some of the community activists as well as some of the noted scholars at the university at this program. They seem to have enjoyed it, got a lot out of it. Part of it is just trying to mobilize them to realize that they have the knowledge, the seeds, and the capability to create the changes we need to see.
Was this your first program?
This is my first time coming to a Day of Shame.
Okay.
I've been to many programs by the Socialist Forum of Ghana.
Okay.
And other Pan-African organizations.
And what other activities have you attended during this Nkrumah commemoration?
I went on a trip to Nkrumah.
Where?
Nkrumah.
Okay.
In the western region of Ghana.
What's the significance of that
We
place?
went with the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. We went to celebrate the place of Nkrumah's birth.
Okay.
And along the way, we stopped at the University of Cape Coast. We did an interaction with Dr. Julius Garvey. We met with Nana Nketia.
And who is Julius Garvey?
The son of Marcus Garvey.
Okay.
We met with Nana Nketia, who is a chief in Takoradi, but also a history professor at the University of Ghana, Cape Coast. And we saw some of the factories that were built under the Nkrumah regime that are currently closed down, such as the glass factory and the tire factory, to show how critical industry that was developed at that time have just been left standing, and how Ghana has fallen into the pattern of almost totally importing most of its needs.
Okay. And what type of reaction are your students giving to the whole Nkrumah phenomenon?
Oh, I wish you would have caught them. They are getting, I think, a really good interaction. They're beginning, especially with some of the declassifications of the CIA files that the Socialist Forum printed and put out pretty widely about 3-4 years ago to show America's role in the overthrow of the Nkrumah government. That was shocking to them, to learn some of the major parties and people who were involved, and kind of to demystify and begin to understand the real role, visions, and impact of Nkrumah inside Ghana as well as Africa and in the diaspora. So it's been a good experience for them, I think.
Well, what do you think people in the United States ought to know about Nkrumah, young people in particular?
I think it would be great if they read some of his books like Ghana, an Autobiography. They could learn some of how his unique history and vision was shaped in the U.S., looking at the struggle of Africans in America. I think that you should read Africa Must Unite to get a really good idea of the total level of exploitation that occurred of the African continent, and maybe his book, Neo-Colonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism. It is excellent to show how Africa is exploited for raw materials and the growth and development of other economies.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now we want to introduce a student or a former student at the University of Ghana. Would you introduce yourself?
My name is Langani Goodman.
Say that again, please.
Langani Goodman.
Okay, and where are you from?
I'm from Ghana, Tamale to be precise, northern region. I'm actually a former student of Tamale Polytechnic, the northern region of Ghana.
Okay.
Yes.
And what field are you in?
Pardon?
What is your field of study?
My field of study is marketing.
Okay. And you're how old?
I'm 24 years old.
24. Yes. Okay. Now, what do you think about Kwame Nkrumah and this particular Day of Shame?
Kwame Nkrumah has been a person I've been looking up to. I look up to in my life, and from my study in school, hearing about him, and hearing that some of whom we read and learned were actually from the colonial masters and were actually skewed to a particular point, and learning more about Nkrumah about who he really was, and knowing more about Nkrumah than just his works, such as the Akosombo Dam, Temamoto Way, and all that. Learning more about his ideas, his ideology is quite insightful and quite revealing. Nkrumah is a person I admire very much and I hold in high esteem. And this program tends to open up more about Nkrumah, and some of us who were not present when Nkrumah was in government or was alive get to learn more about Africa's #1 personality of the millennium, according to BBC itself. And I really enjoyed it.
Now, have you attended any previous programs of this type?
Yes, I have actually attended programs organized by Socialist Forum of Ghana, the same organizers of this event at the Freedom Center in Kokomlemle in Accra.
Okay.
I've attended quite a few of that programs.
So how does this event this year compare to previous programs that you've witnessed?
I must say, this is my first day of shame
Okay.
event being present in person.
Okay.
But I've read about the rest on television, in the newspapers and watch it on television. But it's quite a great honor being present on this day of shame on 21st of February.
Now it appeared to me that the majority of the people in the audience today were young people.
That's right.
And what's the significance of this event and Nkrumah on youth in Ghana?
The significance of it. The Day of Shame actually tends to remind us of very hurtful and very sad, reminds us of very sad memories. Because hearing about Nkrumah when you're growing up from your parents tends to give you a certain kind of Ghana. As you heard, we had the best economy in Africa, the best per capita income, the best life expectancy, and we were almost there in quotes. And due to or because of the coup on the 24th of February, 44 years ago, Ghana actually retrogressed and went backwards. And it's a good reminder, in quotes, but it reminds us of how people can be quite greedy in their life, not taking the national interest as a whole, but seeking self-gratification at a particular point, seeking to honor themselves, seeking to please themselves, and betraying the trust of 20 million Ghanaians or the destiny of generations yet unborn, such as someone like me and my siblings and also my kids to come.
That's right. Now tell me, there was a lot of discussion about the role of the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States in overthrowing Nkrumah.
Yeah.
Now, this will be seen by students in the United States who know very little as a group about the role of the United States internationally.
Okay.
And they said very little about what the CIA is doing.
Okay.
What would you like to tell American students about what the United States is doing, has done in Ghana, and what's doing abroad, and the role of the CIA?
It is quite a dicey subject, but as the Socialist Forum of Ghana has just revealed, CIA declassified files go to show or prove that the CIA had a hand in the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah. It's for them to prove it or doubt or to say otherwise, but what we have at our disposal tends to show that the classified files point at CIA, the leaders of the coup, such as Afrifa, Kotoka, and also the political leaders at that time, Bozia, Dankwa, are said to have taken as much as $70 million into their pockets to betray Nkrumah. And actually, events go to prove that even as at December 1958, no, actually around June 1958, just a year after Ghana attained independence, discussions were going on between political leaders in Ghana and CIA agents, actually promising some foreign dignitaries that by the close of December 1958, Nkrumah's government was going to be overthrown. So, accusations that Nkrumah was corrupt, Nkrumah was a dictator, Nkrumah was wicked, those why he was overthrown, have been defeated by, what do you call it, events such as these. That as at 58, the man is just a year old in government. What do you have to prove that he's being dictatorial? It's really sad that others tend to play with the destinies of other countries because they are powerful, they have money, they have got intelligence, they are stronger than you, tend to influence you to change your leaders. I believe they are the pioneers of democracy, and they believe in democracy and rule of law, and they should let us also choose our leaders and tend to like the people who rule us. I don't believe a country should interfere in another's political leadership, and it's quite sad. Nkrumah himself made those assertions and said it that due to his lineage towards the East during the Cold War, towards Russia and China, it made Britain and America quite uneasy and tended to influence our political leaders such as Buzi and Dankwa, who were quite greedy and sold our country for a few American bucks.
Okay, on another subject about education.
Yeah.
What was Nkrumah's contribution to education and looking at where education is now in Ghana? What do you think the world needs to know about Nkrumah's contribution to education?
You would find out that half of the secondary schools in Ghana are built by Nkrumah. Even more than half, 3/4 of the secondary schools in Ghana are built by Nkrumah. Most of the universities in Ghana are built by Nkrumah, and we should also really appreciate his interest with the basic school and how back then young people were so enlightened to understand very political matters and highly intellectual matters. And it's quite sad that our educational system was corrupted by other interest groups in order to paint Nkrumah in a bad light and then to even put some of their agents into the struggle for independence. They were actually not in support of independence in 1957. They wanted a gradual transfer to them. But our educational system has to be reformed for us to really understand the history as it happened. And I believe some of Nkrumah's books will really give such knowledge to up-and-coming youth and up-and-coming youngsters about what really happened during the fight for independence and how Nkrumah really appreciated that the black man was capable of handling his own affairs and could rule himself. And with education, Nkrumah really helped those of us from the north. There was free education up north, and you had it up there during the presentation that there was a lot of disparity when the colonial powers were in hand. People from the north, because we are tall, very strong, and very resilient, we are used as workforce for the British government. So when Nkrumah came, he realized the disparity between the northern and the southern developmental gap. It was very wide. So he introduced a free education, which helped some of us, our parents, to go to school and acquire knowledge. And along the line, a lot of those privileges were taken out and due to selfish interest of some political leaders. And I believe Nkrumah's contribution to education is quite evident. It's quite evident. Some politicians and some are staunch or well-established so people in society in Ghana right now who came from rural homes or rural backgrounds attribute their success to Nkrumah's good educational policy, which gave equal opportunity to students both in the rural and the urban areas. You could come from a very poor rural home or rural environment in Ghana and go to the best secondary schools or high schools, as you call it up there, and universities and colleges in Ghana back in those days. But right now, things are quite difficult due to lack of incentives for teachers, school materials, and other facilities to help students from the rural communities, pair up with those from the urban area.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Contact details, I was just running off.
Okay.
Just to leave you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, get it.
I'm going to stand outside.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Somebody wants.
started off, I used to do all this myself, and then for several years I had kids doing it, and I forgot how to do it. But okay, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell the audience where you are, where we are, and tell me how you came to be here in Accra.
Okay. Name is Rene AAPRP, and we're right now in West Legon in Accra, Ghana, and this is my compound. We have a couple of buildings and mostly trees, fruit trees, or trees, plants that we eat. So right now you're looking at the cassava, which is a root plant. It's used for food, and then you're looking at the lemon tree, right? And then if you look right here, it's the lemon grass, and right over here is red coconut, and then behind it is a big mango tree. And behind that, you can see a little bit of a green coconut tree.
Okay.
And then between the lemon and the mango, there's a couple of small banana trees there. Then of course, closer to the ground here, we have potato, red potatoes. And we have a couple of little small pineapple plants. Basically, came here first in '95, and then decided about then to retire. So between '95 and 2005, I just got ready. And when I came in 2005, I just stayed. We started off in the chalet down here, and then we moved into the house. I might tell you, this tree right here is a moringa tree called the vegetable tree. And basically, you can eat the leaves, you can eat the bark, you can eat almost any part of it. Very medicinal. So, and then we have this mango tree here, and then we have the pear tree or avocado tree over there. So, again, we're not the grocery store, but we put a share of our own stuff on the table.
Okay.
And basically, in the back we have a lot more banana trees and plantain trees.
Okay.
So that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Okay, Rene, I want you to tell us about your own background before you came to Ghana. What were you doing in the United States?
I was the director of Black Student Services for the University of Colorado at Denver, last 25 years.
Okay. And so what attracted you to come to Africa and visit and settle?
I think I'd been teaching this subject, like I said, for about 25 years. So I got the chance to come over here in '95 to see. And then I kept coming every year to gain more information, and then to basically get a piece of the action. I found some people who were interested. This was originally a group process where there were 6 families involved in this. So we initially pooled what little money we had. Then we thought we bought the land, and we moved to here. We started building. And then it got to the point where we found out we didn't really own the land, so we had to go back and buy it again, legally. So that's what we've been doing the last 2 years. And so now I can legally say that this is, the compound is in our names.
Okay. Now, what type of challenges do you see for African Americans coming to Ghana or coming to Africa?
Again, it depends on how you come. If you come with lots of money, there are no challenges. You know, just throw the big bucks down and get whatever you want. But when we came, again, it was a little here, a little there. We started off with the chalets.
And what are chalets?
It's one room bungalow. It's circle shaped.
Okay.
So the ones we have down there are about 28 feet across. So we started those first, and then we moved to the house. And the original design of the house was somewhat different than what it is, but it didn't make any sense. So we had to change a lot of what was initially started. But we've ended up with this, which I think is a lot better. We had challenges with electricity, with water, because again, we don't have Con Edison over here. So as far as the water was concerned, we originally were hooked up in 2000, and I'm glad to say that we're still hooked up to that one. Electricity was a different matter. We got electricity down in the chalets in 2004. Here in the house, we didn't get electricity till July of 2009. And that was a process in itself. Again, it's different. So, challenge. I mean, you just have to have patience. That's the biggest thing I can tell people. You have to have patience. Again, like we say here, if you can go out and do one thing a day, you're all right.
Okay.
Doing 2 or 3, and we'll send you to the Olympics.
Okay. About how long did it take you to adjust to living here? You've been here 6 years?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years. Adjust to living here.
Adjust to the climate, adjust to the way people do things differently, the languages.
The languages have never been a problem because I can barely speak English, so I don't worry about the languages. The climate, coming from Colorado that's as cold as whatever, coming to here was an extreme. And it took me about, I'd say a good 6-8 months to get used to the fact that it wasn't going to get cold. The way people do things is just a question of finding people who will work with you and who are honest. I mean, it's the same thing everywhere, you know, who are honest. And then from there, you just work with them and you get an end result.
Okay. Now, you remember the All Africa People's Revolutionary Party? Would you talk about what impact that has had on you and what type of work you all are doing here in Ghana?
Yeah, I've been a member since 1970. When I first came here, I learned about the fact that the organization was here. So, and most of the people that were in the group that started with me are in the party. So when I came, got a work study group. We've been doing African Liberation Day for about, a good 2010, good 15 years over here. So, again, we're doing political education, which is the thing that, that we do. I think that one of the differences here is that we're trying to reach the high school students so we can get them some critical thinking skills so that they can start analyzing their particular situation. So by the time they go to college, that they know a little bit. And the other thing here is that if you get 100 people starting school at kindergarten, only 2 of them are going to end up in college. So we figured our better numbers are in the high schools. And a lot of the high schools have these Pan-African clubs, which gives us an opportunity to go in and give out our information.
Okay. Now, this is, since September, they've been commemorating the life of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. What is the significance of Nkrumah today for, and also what was his significance at the time of his life for people who don't know anything about him?
Well, I think the one thing about the man, he had vision. An example I always give is that the University of Ghana at Legon was started in 1963. He was was the first chancellor, and he gave them 50,000 acres of land, and that was 50 years ago. So what has happened is that as the university grows, it has the space to grow, and it doesn't have to worry about encroaching on other people's land or problems of this nature. So I think the other thing was that he believed that, you know, African people can do whatever anybody else can do. Mm-hmm. And he was about showing the world that. And today, a lot of the things that he did for Ghana 50 years ago are being relooked at and are basically is being said, well, why didn't we continue this for 50 years? You know, how much farther ahead we've been. So I think today, on his 100th anniversary, his centenary, we can see that he had major vision. He mm-hmm. saw things, you know, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ahead of their time. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to put into place a lot of the foundation for a better Ghana. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the people after him didn't see it that way. But mm-hmm. even now, when you look at a lot of his accomplishments, a lot of them are still around today.
Mm-hmm. A few days ago, we attended the Day of Shame program at the National Theater. Would you tell our audience about that program? And
okay, Day of Shame is the day that the Nkrumah was overthrown, February 24th, 1966. And basically, it's been almost every year for the last at least 20 years. And it just deals with the fact that at that point in time in his overthrow, Nkrumah had just put out a new 7-year plan. And if you go through the 7-year plan, you can see the vision he had for Ghana. And you can also see that the people who overthrew him were the exact opposite in terms of the vision and the plan. Mm-hmm. Although now you can see, for instance, in 1966, in the second part of the plan, he was going to build Bowie Dam in the northwest part of the country. Well, now in 2007, the government is building Bowie Dam mm-hmm. because they now see the need for it, and they understand that Nkrumah was thinking about the future when he said, let us have an energy producing center in the south of the country and an energy producing center in the middle and northern part of the country, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. So again, that's just another example of that vision.
Now, this program this year was attended largely by young people. I mean, has that always been the case?
Well, this is the first year that the government has actually implemented or been a part of the program. Usually mm-hmm. it's done by a smaller group of people, Socialist Forum.
Okay.
I think it was good to see the young people there, and it's good to see that they're starting to read Nkrumah mm-hmm. and learn what he was about, because a lot of times they just hear about Nkrumah second or third hand. Mm-hmm. So if they can read his books and read his thoughts and understand what he was trying to do, a lot of times it clears up a lot of the misconceptions they have about him, because a lot of rumor, a lot of bad press he's gotten from the previous government and previous politicians.
Okay. In comparing socially the similarities and differences between life in Ghana and in the United States, what do you see as the situation of the family? How does that what type of challenges does the family have, let's say, in Denver compared to in Accra?
Well, I think here the thing is you have the family is the corner of the society. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the basis of society. And so, for example, when a man and a woman marry, it's not a man and a woman singly, it's two families married. Mm-hmm. And so...
The glasses.
Oh. So, two families married. So, again, it's a different social structure. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the smaller units, you know, again, still, Ghana is about 52% rural. Mm-hmm. So the village is the basis of a lot of life, even though urbanization and a lot of people are coming. So the thing is that the families come, the children come, but the difference is, again, in America, in Denver, you know, you got this high divorce rates, you got crazy children running around, you got the drugs. You know, not to say it isn't here, but it's not to the same degree here. You know, and the society is, the cohesive society is based upon the family unit.
Okay.
And that's the big difference.
Okay. What about elements like crime generally and safety?
Accra is relatively safe. I think that, I mean, I'm not saying there wasn't any crime, but I think that this last president has made it part of his government to ensure the safety of citizens, and there have been a couple of examples to let the people who want to perpetuate crime know that it's not going to be an easy task. So in our neighborhood, for instance, you know, there's not that much of a crime problem. And then there's also the presence of a lot of the police presence is more now these days than it has been.
Now I see crowds of people walking around the streets in Accra at night. I mean, shopping and socializing as if it were, say, Manhattan, late at night, and selling their goods. The vendors are selling goods at night, and to me it appears quite safe. I mean, I see women walking around by themselves at all hours, and children. Well, not children not out that late, but it does appear to be a lot safer generally. What about education? What are the attitudes about education here compared to the attitude, the values of education in the United States?
Well, I'll give you an example, Charles. When we first came, and every year we come after, first came in '95, I always used to bring pencils and pens. And I go to these schools, and I thought I was handing out gold and, you know, uranium.
Wow.
The way the kids were receptive to that. Now, if I was going to go to a elementary or a junior high school in Denver and give out pencils and pens, they'd probably throw rocks at me and want to know, you know, why this crazy old man was here trying to give us pens and pencils for what?
Yeah. And what do you see as the family attitudes towards education? Let's say the people, the farmers, and the people in the villages. What are their attitudes about education?
Well, let's see education as a way to rise in a society. Education is the basis upon which, you know, you can change your life. And what the government's trying to do now, what Nkrumah is trying to do, is to make the farmer the most educated person in society, because he or she is the one that grows the food. And so the whole concept of 4-H, the whole concept of your agricultural agent was part of what he was bringing to Ghanaian society. And so again, the farmers understand that they need the education. They need to know about, you know, the best crops. They need to know about the best way of doing it, and they need to know it based upon what's good for the soil in Ghana, not Sweden or Russia. You know, what's good here and what can we, you know, do here? Because usually you can grow 2 crops a year, and someplace you can grow 3 crops a year here. So again, it's about educating the whole populace, because an educated populace makes the society better.
Okay. Now, I also noticed that the population seems to be relatively slim compared to the people, the ordinary people. You know, in the United States, such a large percentage of people are overweight, and I don't see that here, just at least in Accra. What have been your observations, and what are the reasons, you think?
Well, I think one is they walk a lot. You know, a lot of people walk a lot. And the other thing is a lot of the food doesn't have all those additives that we have. And then the thing about this different in Ghana is that vegetables and greens make up their staple, and meat is an extra.
Okay.
Where in the United States, meat is the essential thing, and the vegetable and greens are, you know, extra.
Right.
So it's almost a turnaround. And so their diet is specifically based upon plant, vegetable, fruits, things like that. And meat is something that they get, you know, it's a surprise. It's, you know, let's go out and we found this and we got this. So that's I think the big deal. And then the other is exercise. You know, a lot of walking.
When you say a lot of walking, give me an example.
Let's see. Well, I would say that, for instance, the market women or the women that get up about 4 or 5 in the morning, they'll walk maybe a couple miles to where they need to go. And then, again, just a daily routine of walking where you have to go. I mean, because money's short, so a lot of people walk, you know, distances, you know, a mile or less. Children will walk to school, or even the little children, you'll see them walking to school, and it gets to be a habit. And so they, you know, they stay trimmed that way, you know.
Okay. Now, Accra has a population of about 2.3 million, I saw in the geography book. How does a city of that size, of this size, compare, let's say, issues of transportation and housing and all the infrastructure? How does that compare with, say, a city of similar size in the United States? What type of challenges do they?
Well, there's an infrastructure challenge. You know, again, if we went outside and looked at the street, we'd see that, you know, it's not tarred and things like that. I think that city services are lacking. I think again, it's a process where Ghana, like a lot of African countries, has been caught up in the geopolitical IMF, World Bank thing, where structural adjustment and all these other things come into play, and a lot of it has to do with when they get loans from these institutions. The loans say that, yeah, you can spend it on X but not Y. And so a lot of times Y is the infrastructure, Y is the hospitals, Y is other things that you know, were available in other parts of the world. So I see that as one of the major reasons.
Now, you mentioned earlier to me in a conversation that you were organizing or you're going to give a tour to some senior citizens coming from the United States.
Yeah,
will this be the first time, or is this a continuing?
This is something we've been doing. I think that, yeah, we're trying to get the tour together for July. Since they're senior citizens, it's going to be basically a riding tour where they'll stay in hotels, and then we'll give them tours of, you know, Accra, Cape Coast, Kumasi. We'll go probably to Abori Gardens, some of the, you know, places where they can maybe get out and walk around a little while, but understanding that, you know, they're probably not used to the climate. You know, they need a little air conditioning, and that we have to make the day long enough, just long enough for them, so that we can get all these attractions in. You know, it's a lot to see in Ghana. So again, we're packaging it as I think it's an 11-day, 10-night tour.
What are some of the highlights of a tourist package, and what places to visit?
Well, I think that in Accra, the Kwame and Nkrumah mausoleum, the slave dungeons are another attraction. They're in Cape Coast. I think you can go like the botanical gardens in the Buri, just shopping in general. You can see a lot in terms of just in Accra. Just in Accra, you know, you can go downtown, you can go to the mall, you can go to different sections, different places. So a lot of places there. I think again, I would put in the Volta region, which is east of us, is probably the region that best represents Ghana because it has everything that Ghana has, but it's also one of the least developed places. So there, if you do a tour, it's like a lot of ecotourism where you make reservations beforehand, and you know, you stay in little guest houses type thing. So on this tour, we're not going to do that, but on other tours, we have done that.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop there and ask if you have any other comments for our audience in the United States.
Yeah, y'all come on down.
Thank you.